I'm Sujay. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Lidu, where we build wearable devices to make postpartum care more comfortable and efficient for new moms. My background is in electrical engineering. I did my undergrad back in India at a university called Scheiman University down in the south of India. Moved to the US to pursue my master's a few years ago. Did my master's in electrical engineering as well at the University of Pennsylvania. And started Lidu one day after graduating from my grad program. Fun fact, yeah, this is the first job that I've ever been in, so it's like just out of the blue, you know, so I'm studying one day and the next day I'm an entrepreneur, so yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing my experience with you guys.
Thank you. Great to be here as well. My name is Jonathan Scheiman, co-founder and CEO of FitBionics. We're a microbiome company that's developing next-generation microbes for consumer health and longevity applications. We do that by basically studying the biology of the most fit people in the world, what's unique in their physiology, and then translate that into essentially probiotics that broader populations can take to improve their health. I'm a New York City kid. I went to Fame High School in Lincoln Center. I went to St. John's University. I played basketball there. I wasn't good enough to make the NBA, so I got a PhD in biomedicine from NYU. After that, I then went to Harvard to do my postdoc, but nobody likes Boston, so came back home to launch FitBionics here, currently based at the Biolabs down on Barrett Street.
So are you all located in, your company's located in incubators?
We are not. Where are you located?
So we weren't an incubator, we were at JLabs for a long time, and we recently, I guess just last summer, moved to Long Island City, where we have kind of our own space, our own office in the Alexandria Center over in Long Island City. So
We've been a part of accelerator programs. I wouldn't say incubator per se. I mean, the space right now, IndieBio is one of SOSC's portfolio accelerator program, and we are a proud alumni company. I see Sean here. Hi, Sean. Yeah, so Sean is one of our investors, and we're not a part of an incubator program anymore. We have an office space in Midtown.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, actually, I think it sounds like you guys kind of like, almost after you graduated, you started your company. We spent a lot of time somewhat incubating at Harvard in sort of like a translational institute, and then from there we came back home to New York, currently in Biolabs.
great.
So for the technology.
Gotta get into this. You're all working on cutting edge technology. Please describe the technology that you're working on.
All right, so I kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but Envisagenics is an RNA-focused company, so hopefully everyone's heard of kind of RNA therapeutics at this point, having spent the last 3 years hopefully all taking them. But we really focus on, instead of mRNA technology, we focus on RNA splicing. So just very, very quick background, you have DNA in your cells that gets transcribed into RNA, and that RNA gets translated into protein. So we really work on that kind of step behind proteins, and even it's basically how the RNA gets made that describes what type of protein it's going to make at the end of the day, right? And what we've realized is we can alter what protein gets made at the end of the day by modulating RNA splicing. And this is really cool because we can really attack any gene that we're interested in, right? So instead of just having to focus on the protein that we have at the end of the day, or knowing the structure of a protein, or trying to find a small molecule, we can really alter the sequence of your RNA before it even gets to that point. So it really opens up a host of new targets for any type of disease that you're interested in. All of your cells have RNA. So right now we're really focused on, like I said, splicing. We're focused on some immuno-oncology targets. We're focused on some neurodegeneration targets. And what I think is cool about Envisagenics too is that we're very much an AI computationally focused company. So we're using a lot of really new computational tools, building a lot of new AI platforms in order to find these targets that are actually amenable to modulation with RNA. So that's a lot of what I do day to day. I'm a computational biologist, so I sit at my computer and try to come up with new ways to find these targets, and that we can then partner with other companies to turn those into therapeutics.
Yeah, so my company is building, I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking as these guys are working on. Maybe these guys are working on really cool things, but we're building new technologies to make breastfeeding more efficient. Like I said, building a better breast pump system, and that's how we got started. We have one product that's already on the market that uses a pneumatic or hydraulically powered technology to automate massage to help mothers get more milk. And we're currently working on a state-of-the-art like fabric sensor-based technology for breast milk tracking.
Yeah, thank you. So I mentioned we're microbiome-based. Probably that's an in vogue term these days. I think most of you know we're as much bacteria as we are human. We have trillions of microorganisms in and on our body that greatly affect everything we do from a functionality and health and longevity perspective. So basically what we're doing is we're looking for microorganisms using a lot of next generation sequencing technology to identify microorganisms enriched that drives physiological benefits in everything from endurance, strength, mental toughness, recovery. We sort of work with elite athletes. They represent the 0.01% of the human population in terms of optimal health. And then we track their microbiomes longitudinally pre and post exercise to see which microbes confer benefits in performance and recovery states. We can then use culturomics to purify those microbes, do in vitro and in vivo functional validation, but then ultimately go full stack. Once you have a novel microbe, you now can convert it into sort of a commercially viable probiotic capsule and then do functional testing to validate different benefits consumers might have. So it's really translating biological data at a microbial level into consumer interfacing sort of consumer products.
I'll start back with you, Jonathan. Does that mean you have both hardware and software and there's some kind of technology integration? Can you share a little bit more about the tech stack, I guess?
Yeah, it's funny, you know, actually, everything I said is just a fancy way of saying I collect a lot of stool from athletes. That's the real technology, that's the Intel Inside approach. But you know, 60% of stool actually is comprised of bacteria. So again, we can extract genetic material from those biological samples. We can then use next-gen sequencing to kind of get like a snapshot of what microbes are enriched in athletes, how they change over time, how they compare to athletes by other sports, how they compare to non-athletes. And then you go from bioinformatics and sequencing to culturomics and microbiology, anaerobic chambers that can now grow all sorts of interesting microorganisms. And then the full stack going into just like manufacturing and fermentation to create actually food-grade finished products. So a lot of sequencing to culturomics to manufacturing to functional testing.
You must have a lot of fun stuff that you're working on. I can't wait to hear all the fun stories in the background. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, so for us, a lot of it started with hardware to like building products to improve hardware and technology that exists in the breastfeeding space. When we got started, both my co-founder and I, we're not parents ourselves, so for us it was important to talk to our customers and understand their pain points. And we discovered that technology hasn't sort of kept up with time in the space, the breastfeeding space, for several decades now. If you look at what a breast pump patent looked like in the 1950s, it looks almost exactly the same as the device that exists today. And so as technologists, to us, that was super disappointing. And so we started by building better devices for mothers. And then we also realized that even research has taken a backseat in this space for several years now. There hasn't been enough research, and we realized that there's a lot of data that's getting lost when it comes to lactation. And we know that lactation is very closely tied to postpartum mood disorders like anxiety. There are a lot of benefits to both the mother and the baby by just helping them breastfeed more efficiently. And so right now we're, in addition to the hardware, we're also working on software solutions to build that holistic picture around how sleep and diet and basically lifestyle assists how we can help moms make the best out of their breastfeeding and breast milk sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I touched on this earlier, but we're a pretty fully software company. I would say the majority, maybe not anymore, maybe about 50-50 are on the computational side of things. So we similarly use mostly RNA-seq, but also other next-gen sequencing technologies. We take in a ton of RNA-seq data, and then most of our jobs is to filter through that data and figure out, like I said, new and innovative ways to identify these targets that are going to be really useful for therapeutics down the line. We also do have a really big biology team that are kind of taking those targets and doing a lot of the validation. And like I said, we're mostly target discovery, so we're looking for the genes to target, we're looking for the methodologies to target them, but we're, at least at this point, not doing a ton of therapeutic development ourselves. We're really partnering with other companies to do that side of things.
Just to shift to the business side of what you all do, who are your customers? Whether or not you individually, you specifically work with them, who might purchase your products?
Well, hopefully patients, patients that need new treatments for us. Like I said, we have a lot of different indications. Right now we've done a lot of work in breast cancer, other oncology types as well. We're also moving into neurodegeneration and metabolic diseases. So really all of these, any patient in these fields that have, targetable genes in their diseases, then we hope to get a therapeutic to them someday.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say all the moms in the world, I guess, would be our customers. To begin with, we're starting in the US, there are around 4 million new births in the US every year, around 3.2 million new moms who start breastfeeding every year and start using a breast pump. And yeah, I mean, that's our target market. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, we wanna help hospitals, like, moms in NICUs, especially moms with premature babies who have to breast pump for 6 to 8 hours every single day in order to provide their babies with the necessary nourishment and like nutrition that they need. And we're getting there. Like, we're talking to hospitals now, and we're conducting pilot programs so we can get our product and solutions there.
Yeah, I think we're a little different than traditional biotech. We're not a therapeutics company, we're more of a consumer health, preventive health company. So, the wellness generation, the health and wellness industry is projected to be $7 trillion by the end of the decade. These are folks that can purchase probiotics or just interested in nutrition and healthy and active lifestyles. There's over 70 million people in America that describe themselves as living purposeful, healthy, active lifestyles. And this ranges from health seekers to fitness enthusiasts to healthy aging. We built out programs for gut health. 60% of US adults complain about having GI issues on a daily basis. We have a product clinically developed for sleep health. I think sleep issues are on the rise in this country. We're also building out programs for strength, cognition, and recovery. So again, our goal is maybe more in line with food tech and SynBio, not so much to treat disease, but to hopefully prevent it.
So just thinking about other technology, maybe it could be related to yours or it could be outside of your technology, but what is a new technology or development that you're excited about or that you're nervous about? Would anyone like to start?
I don't know if I'm nervous about new technology per se. I think our job as entrepreneurs is to be disruptive and think differently. And I think any new technology might be perceived, in a weird manner. I'm really big on, actually, I like climate tech type applications. I'm really big on the application of biotechnology for purposes outside of just therapeutics or drug development. So I think the notion of like bioremediation, right, and even engineering microorganisms that could clean up the environment, I think that's really cool. I also love just like food tech. We could probably move beyond alternative proteins and plant-based proteins, but I think I'm just a huge believer in, nature finds a way. And if you look at billions of years of evolution, there's so many solutions in nature that could help us revamp the environment and our food supply chain as well.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, as a technologist and a nerd, like, I love all technologies, honestly. Like, anything in healthcare, I've been super passionate about healthcare. Been in and out of hospitals as a child, and like, seen miracles being created by doctors and the new innovative medtech technologies that have enabled that. So I really love research specifically in cancer. Like, I love what you do and your company contributes to that. But again, like, I think I'll say what we're all thinking, like just like AI and like ChatGPT and the integration and the potential applications of GPT in all areas, specifically healthcare, the endless opportunities that exist. Like, I'm super excited. And like, I know that we're just scratching the surface. We have a long way to go. There's going to be a lot of debate around like, oh, like, is this going to be evil? Are we creating the next Skynet of the world? But once we get past that, like once the government sees past that, sees the actual potential that exists in using this technology in creating groundbreaking solutions that can save lives for, and just make humanity better. Like, I'm super, super excited about that future.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was going to touch on AI as well. I think that's, an area that I'm super excited about, but I think also there are, a lot of people that are nervous about it. And I think, for good reason. There's a lot that, people don't understand about it. There's a lot that we don't understand about it. But I think it is really, really powerful. And I think, there's also a lot of conversations going on about how to use it responsibly, how to develop it responsibly. And I think as long as we kind of keep an eye on that, I think it can be incredibly powerful, not only in therapeutics, but in, really any space that we can apply it to, so.
So no technophobes here. Pro technology. Love it. Great. Why New York City? Why did you choose to set up shop here? What benefits would you say you have for Envisigenics being in New York City? We'll start with Jonathan.
I'm biased. When I was living in Boston, I said, I like my city's dirty and unaffordable, right? And that's why I came back home here. But actually, I grew up in Greenwich Village, right by Washington Square Park. What I also will say is, like, I believe in diversity. And I think New York is got to be like the most diverse city in the world, right? And I think, just from my beliefs, diversity is a requisite for evolution, and evolution is essential for survival. And I think, the energy, the aspiration, this is home, right? And I think you meet so many people here, and that fosters innovation. And for the best city in the world, we might as well be the best at biotech and bioscience. So that's why I came home to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, I pretty much echo everything that Jonathan said, honestly. I think, I don't know how many of you were at the event yesterday, right? Like, I think yesterday's event pretty much exemplifies New York City for me. It's like just people from various backgrounds coming together to celebrate technology, celebrate life sciences, and talk about the future, talk about like where things can, like what things can be done to reach that great future, like point A to point B. And I'm excited about being a part of that system. Again, I've been a proud part of several of these like accelerator and like incubator programs, even within the city, and like I've seen the ecosystem grow over the past few years. Life sciences specifically, I think there's still a long way to go, but again, compared to like other places, even within the US, I think New York has come such a long way, and it's just the speed at which things happen here, like innovation, and it's crazy. Like I just cannot wrap my head around like how things can go from absolutely nothing to like, again, this space did not exist like 4 years ago, and like to see what this indie bio space has become right now, it's like I cannot, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I fully echo both their sentiments. It's the greatest city in the world, and why would you want to be anywhere else? But I think there's a lot to be said for not only diversity of people and everything, but diversity of location too, because I thought for sure I'd end up in Boston after I graduated. I thought that was the only option, right? And I think just that alone is not a great situation, right? That everyone has to go to this one specific place to do all of the, biotech innovation. And obviously San Francisco and other places, but I think just being able to have that diversity of location as well is really important. And I also think, to your point, there's something really exciting about kind of coming in while New York is kind of up and coming in this area. There's so much growth happening, and we get to be a part of that growth and a part of kind of directing where this industry goes in this city. And I think that's a really exciting place to be. So.
What advice do you have for our interns? Many of them are in their first career trajectory, launching position. Sujay.
I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Like I think as a startup founder, that's like the one thing I've learned is what, people say don't look at the past, but I say the past shapes you to the person that you are today, and like who you are today is going to shape the future for yourself, for your company. And so like make mistakes, as many mistakes as you can, and like learn from those mistakes. And talk to your mentors, like create that system around you that will help you. Like, people say talk to a therapist, but like that's not necessary, right? Like so long as you have the strong circle around you of people who can give you positive feedback, reinforce you into a strong person, both on a personal level, but also on the professional level. Find that mentor that you want to work for, like who will be very critical with you, but at the same time will let you know that you're doing a great job and you're doing a great job. And so two of my interns sitting back there, Rahim and Jennifer, so shout out to you guys. You both have been incredible. But yeah, I think it's very, very important at your level to be curious, and I would just say like continue staying curious in all the fields that you want to explore.
I just want to call out what you said, celebrate the positive, find people who can give you positive feedback. That came up earlier, I don't know if you remember, with Jeffrey and Vadim, and they said, celebrate, especially probably really hard as an entrepreneur working in small companies, there's a lot to get down about, so celebrate the positive. Alyssa?
Yeah, I would definitely echo finding a good mentor, and I often give this advice to kind of first-year graduate students when they're looking for a lab to join or looking for a mentor, especially when they're trying to rotate through labs and find where their scientific home is going to be for however long. And I say, don't look at the science. If you're a good scientist, if you're excited about science, you can get excited about pretty much any science. Obviously, you don't want to do something you're actively not interested in, but I think you want to find a mentor, find a teacher, find someone that you can really work with every single day, because you're going to be. And the other advice that I have is, I guess, kind of similar as well, but is to just, I hate the term network, because everyone says, don't network. And that's like the hardest thing to do, at least for someone like me. But network, talk to people. You're doing it right now. You're in a program like this where you're surrounded by people in the city that are doing potentially things you want to do someday. You're with your peers that will be your colleagues someday. Talk to them, talk to who they know, ask who they know, go to conferences. I think that's where I really got the most value in my career. It's how I got my job. It's how I've found, places like this. It's just to talk to people, talk to everybody, even if you think they're not precisely relevant or whatever it is, just talk to everyone and really grow your network.
Yeah.
I think the battery is dying.
Yeah.
Maybe switch it off and switch it back on and squeeze all the juice
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Maybe I pressed the button. Technology's tough.
I agree with everything. I guess maybe two other points, and it sounds so simple. There is no substitute for hard work. Like, you just have to work, right? You guys are given opportunities and you have to make the most of it. Another thing, it sounds so simple, like just be a good person, Like, seriously, it's not that hard to be a good person. From my basketball days, training, one of my good friends and training partner said to me, it's like success is when preparation meets opportunity. And it's just, you gotta keep working, right, at your craft. So, and then the last thing I'd say is like, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to think differently, right? And, always going through a PhD, the science is nice and all that, but really it's just a journey towards learning how to think critically, right? And so I think going into these high stressful situations, you work hard, you're a good person, you could be solutions oriented and always look at data and try to be proactive towards finding solutions. So.
Great. What questions do you have for our awesome panelists? Daniel.
For Jonathan, well, I think the microbiome is really cool, but I feel like, at least in what I've seen, I've only ever seen very vague things. So do you have any good statistical data, anything you can share, that you've noticed trends in what you've done that have a strong statistical basis?
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, that's just another great opportunity. If there's an area that there's a lot of interest but doesn't have anything concrete, it means it's pretty much ripe for disruption. we published a Nature Medicine paper coming out of Harvard where we looked at ultramarathon runners who identified a microorganism enriched in their gut that eats lactic acid, which was like a eureka moment. We then purified it and did preclinical studies to show statistically significant improvements in run till exhaustion assays. We then sort of manufactured that and have actually done human clinical studies to validate it as well. So I think to your point, we're looking to go beyond correlation and like pool studies to actual causation and then functional validation. That's awesome.
Sorry.
I would say like for all three of you, I definitely struggle with it, and I'm sure, honestly, like of all of the smartest people I've met, struggle with it too. Just like dealing with like imposter syndrome and like feeling like, you're not really qualified to be doing the work that you're doing, even though like people tell you you are. You don't really feel it. If you guys have felt like that and how you've moved past that, because I feel like a lot of the time it really inhibits you and like, yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting up here with two co-founders, and I, I'm just a scientist at my company. I think that I saw the list and I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be up there, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I should say, like, I feel the same way looking at these guys. You guys are doing them. But that, to answer your question, like, that will never go away. Like, you're always going to have days where you doubt yourself. But that's also why it's important to surround yourself with the right support system. Like, when I say mentor, and like, it could be anybody. It could be the person, like somebody you work with, your colleague, or somebody that is working under you at some point, like, or your family. It's very important to have that to like keep reminding you. And yeah, you just need to like learn to trust yourself, and it will come. It will come. Like it happens. Like there's no, like I don't think Mark Zuckerberg has figured that out for instance. Right? Like I don't think like Bill Gates of the world have figured that out. You're always gonna like have to learn to stop. Like you will criticize yourself, but just don't be hard on yourself to stop your growth. Like, yeah.
I think it goes to your point about making mistakes too. I mean, that's just kind of the industry we're in, is trying things, and if they don't work, they don't work. And as long as you're surrounded by people who support that and support, oh, I made a mistake, let's try something else, let's do something new, then that's, that's what you need to do.
I'll just say we're all making it up as we go along. We're building the plane and flying it in real time. And that's just life, that's entrepreneurship. Yeah, I'm a big movie buff. One of my favorite quotes is from a movie, Tombstone. Maybe you guys are too young. Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell. But like, Doc Holliday looks at Wyatt Earp and says, there's no such thing as a normal life. There's just life, right? And if you can accept that, then that'll help you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Jonathan. So with your like specific line of work, so you're working on kind of like performance enhancers and stuff like that. So do you see like pushback? Because a lot of people are like, oh, that's unfair. You're giving like all right. So like if you're a marathon runner and you're taking pills that decrease the amount of acid that you produce, that kind of gives you an unfair advantage or an edge compared to
Yeah. It's a great question. My tongue-in-cheek response is, if it does confer an unfair performance advantage, that means as a scientist we've done our job, right? We've spoken with US OPC nutritionists. There's nothing wrong with something that's performance enhancing. It just can't be a banned substance, right? Like growth hormones or steroids. But I'll also say, beyond athletes, our goal is not to make better athletes. It's for human performance and longevity. So fatigue fighting lactic acid consuming probiotics, they're not for marathon runners, they're for everyone, right? They're on their daily grind, chronic fatigue, right? Long COVID, things like that. So it's just learning what works in super performance and democratizing it for everyone.
We'll go Julia, Luisa, Udara.
Did you learn most of the skills that you use for your job now, or that you feel are most useful from experience or from school?
I mean, I think first and foremost, school for me. I'm in a very, research-heavy, coding-heavy role right now. So I learned a lot of that in school. I did learn a lot of it hands-on in school during my PhD instead of like taking classes on it. So I think that's something to keep in mind, even if you're not like, you want to go into some sort of data-related field and you're not a classically trained, computer scientist or whatever, you can definitely get that experience elsewhere. But I also think as I kind of move into what I'm hoping will be kind of more project management roles and, kind of leading the direction of the science of the company. A lot of that I learned on the job. I learned that talking to people. I learned that at conferences. So I guess the answer is both. But yeah.
Agreed.
100%. Yeah, there's like education is also important, and it can come in various forms, various factors. Like you can watch a YouTube video on space, and that's still education at the end of the day. Yeah, I think what's also important is you weigh, like talk to other people and like be open to listening to ideas, and that's like you're gonna get soft skills, you're gonna get like more information, you're gonna learn new things by just talking to people. I think like just keep that up as well.
And just one thing I will add, I guess, somewhat of a pet peeve, like this balance between theoretical and practical. And I think especially in entrepreneurship, I'm a huge believer in the lean startup model, minimum viable product. So you're translating technology into something that's ready to introduce to the market, and you learn from the market. So that notion of, school, but also practical experience is very important.
Yeah, schools don't teach you how to do your taxes, so that's
Which is important. You should do that.
They should.
Louisa.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask all of you guys, as you work on these different technologies, how do you navigate the ethical challenges and dilemmas that arise with them? How do you do it on a personal level? How does your company do it, etc.?
Sure. Yeah, I guess you guys are probably familiar with this, but anytime you do human subjects research, there needs to be an IRB review and approval to make sure you meet all the proper guidelines, consent forms, informed consent. You're notifying everyone that they're participating in a research study. So a lot of that goes into, kind of the initial microbiome analysis, but even from clinical trial design, enrollment, and, so I think also the other thing too is, that's why you build sort of like advisory boards, scientific advisory boards, business advisors, really people that have been there, done that, and have a wealth of experience that you can learn from, so you don't have to like reinvent the wheel. So making sure you have proper advisors, proper guidance, and following, the protocols for ethical research.
I think just kind of along those same lines in terms of like data and making sure you're doing research ethically. Obviously you need IRB and all these, official things when you're working with patients. We work with data mostly, but this data is coming from patients for the most part. And we don't work with any, personally identifiable data or things like that, so we don't have a ton of the formal ethical guidelines we need to follow, but we do really take a lot of effort to make sure that the data we're getting from patients is very diverse and very, applicable to the disease that we're looking at, but also, we don't want to just look at people from one area or people of one race or things like that. So we really take a lot of time to make sure that the data we are getting is, applicable to the population we want to treat at the end of the day. Because if it's not, then it's pretty useless. So.
Yeah, I think to Jonathan's point about just like being a good person, I guess. So once you know what the end goal is, and like you can be objective about what you're building, and know that it may not be the best thing, it may even be a failure, and like you just know that at the end of the day, what matters is that you're doing the right thing by the people that you're building this particular thing for. I think again, with ethics and science, like it's always like a blurry line. So at one point, the Earth was at the center of the universe, and like if you thought otherwise, like you were like punished severely. So today's science is gonna be tomorrow's tomorrow's fiction is gonna be today. I don't know.
Since you deal with new technologies, and some of it is like client facing to the public. How do you, if there's like misinformation about your product or your field, how do you kind of navigate through that so that you can increase user adoption and awareness of your product? If there's that type of basic misinformation.
Anyone feel strongly about answering this question for the consumer-facing folk?
It's hard. I think in general, there's just so much misinformation or too much information out there. I honestly believe, how essential just communication is, like scientific communication to the layperson or broader populations. It's such like an undervalued skill set. I think what we try to do for our product, right, our technology, we try to speak about the story, like where we come from, what makes us unique, what makes us different, what are the pain points. That's like a big thing, consumer pain points, why our technology is different and how it can help people. And then of course, you want to sort of back that up with scientific data, research can point people to the right direction. And then, it does help if you have sort of like, I don't know, influencers or ambassadors that have social networks that can provide, testimonials for what you're doing. And I think, again, building diverse networks and communities from scientists and non-scientists could help sort of deliver appropriate messaging.
Yeah, I'll talk about this specific to like my company. So there is, misinformation, and thank you so much for that question. I think as a founder, it's very important to stay close to your customers, and so for me, I still lead customer success in my company, so I'm still taking calls with customers and understanding where they're coming from if they don't like the product, or if they're not having a good experience with the product, just making sure that they understand, our customers are moms, and there's this high intensity lives that they have to work through, and understanding and just being patient that it's fine, once you put the product out in the world, there are gonna be mistakes, and customers are gonna use it a certain way that you didn't anticipate it, and just letting them know, just staying patient with them, conveying the actual use cases and understanding. And also, again, being open to the fact that you may be wrong, right? Maybe it's an edge case that you didn't really think of. And then just constantly making iterations to your brand messaging, just making sure that you make tweaks to your website, you make tweaks to the information that you're putting out there about your company, about the brand that you've built, and always staying true to why you started the company. And, I guess, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
We don't have a consumer product, but you may have heard some RNA therapeutic misinformation over the past few years. But I think I'll just echo the sentiments of science communication is just super important, and being able to get good data and good data out there in a way that people can understand is a really, really important job, and something that will become even more important, I think, over the next few years.
Let's thank our panelists. We can still thank them. Let's go ahead and thank them. I didn't see your hand before, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, what does hard work consist of in your last work?
What's hard work? What is hard work in your business?
Oh, everything.
Breathing. I think as a founder of a company that stands for innovating in this space, hard work is just making sure that we're always staying innovative and staying true to what the company stands for. Just making sure that there are going to be low days, and there are going to be days where you're feeling very high, and getting past those low days and it's tough. But if you know why you're doing what you're doing, and those testimonials that Jonathan mentioned at the end of the day as well, it's so important. All it requires is reading one testimony from your customers and not one email to uplift you, and it's all worth it. Hard work is every single day, but it's all worth it at the end of the day if you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think as CEO or even just entrepreneur in general, you have to wear so many hats. So just trying to think, what is the day in the life? First and foremost, when I was at Harvard, I was doing a lot of the experiments, right? It was designing studies, recruiting participants, collecting stool, doing wet lab research, doing culturomics, right? Filing IP. Then you transition to fundraising, right? Then you transition to business development, then commercialization, partnerships, hiring, right? Actually, now my role kind of as CEO is kind of just the chief, or just emails. I mean, but inspirational ops are like, you know, managing people, getting them on the same page, getting them aligned. You're talking about people that do sort of like metagenomic analysis to people that do consumer marketing, right? Data analytics. Getting everyone aligned is like really, 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 really hard, right? And I think in general, as entrepreneurs, we're like crazy. That's our job, right? We're trying to like build the future in real time and be disruptive. So getting people to like see that vision and want to be a part of it and help you bring it to fruition, it's tough.
Yeah. Just one more thing to add to that, and I totally agree. Again, once you're an entrepreneur, like as a CEO, like you also feel responsible for not just what you're building, but people around you. Like, you know, I have such a strong team, such an amazing team. Like, you feel responsible for them. You feel responsible for their livelihood. You feel responsible for the investors who put money into your company, and it adds up. Right? Like, it's a lot of pressure on you. Yeah, it's hard work. Getting a new product out in the market is not easy. So, but I wouldn't change my job for anything else in the world. So it's like.
Alyssa, entrepreneurs are not the sole owners of hard work.
Oh, yeah.
So what does hard work look like or sound like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm sure my day-to-day is a little bit different than these two up here, but I think, you know, in terms of hard work, especially, you know, in the, you know, maybe my eventual goal is to be, you know, at the management level, even maybe starting a company someday, and I think a lot of what I do is, I mean, it's hard in terms of I need to do the data analysis every single day. I need to make sure that I'm doing that rigorously. I need to make sure that I'm doing that in a way that I get the results that are answering the questions we want to be answering. Putting that data together in a way that's understandable for the rest of the company and communicating that to the rest of the company so they can do their jobs correctly, right? All of that's really hard, and I think it also is, you know, it's very rewarding, but it's also like I don't necessarily have someone breathing down my neck every day being like, do this next, do this next, do this next, right? So I really have to push that forward and do that work and show it to the people that need to see it. And I think also just kind of doing that for myself too, because it's personal development and it's getting me to that next step of my career where hopefully I'll be, you know, maybe managing a team or, you know, managing a company someday. And I think, you know, putting in that work now is directly translatable to, you know, what that will mean in the future. So.
Awesome. Okay, well now let's give another